Hello guys, or should I say bonjour? But no, unfortunately there are no French soldiers all over Ukraine despite what Russian propaganda claims. Same as there were no biolaboratories before the start of invasion, and no, we don't have specifically modified mosquito fighters. The mosquito bite I have on my forehead is organic, natural, of a typical Kiev mosquito. But anyway, there are rumors that France is ready to send some of its soldiers to Ukraine, and personally, I like that idea because this can help us with training Ukrainian soldiers in Ukraine, also with some reforming ideas and for the exchange of experience, which is super important, taking into account that Kremlin dictator is crazy, his appetites are growing, and he has great plans for Europe and the world. That's why we have to be prepared. And when I say we have to be prepared, I realize that Ukraine has to be the most prepared. That's why we continue our mobilization, and the new law becomes active since the 18th of May, and this will bring some major changes in the way Ukrainian soldiers are conscripted. So let me tell you more about this new mobilization and what we think about international soldiers coming to Ukraine from an ordinary Ukrainian perspective. My name is Anna, and I vlog daily from Ukraine since the start of the brutal Russian invasion. So if you're new to the channel, you support Ukraine, please subscribe and help us fight against Russian propaganda and fake news. And my longtime friends, check your subscription status and hit notification button. Google tells us that half of the planet is trying to check are there French Foreign Legion soldiers already in Ukraine, and I can tell you no. Unfortunately, not yet, but we do like this idea. We understand that front lines are the responsibility of Ukrainian armed forces, and believe me, still waiting for the ammunition and lacking some major things, we demonstrate great resilience and at the same time huge gratitude to our partners. But this is not a local conflict, and Putin is getting ready to attack other countries. I don't mean this month or the next month, but it is all very possible, taking into account that he constantly tests NATO countries, for example, when his missiles cross the borders of these countries. So it is definitely better to be prepared. And I do love this change in Macron's style when he switched from long telephone calls with crazy Kremlin gobbling to active ideas, which he shared at the beginning of 2024 on the meeting of EU presidents and leaders. And he actually said that idea to send international soldiers to Ukraine may be a good one. And once again, it is also useful for your armies because what they've learned in theory are in some conflicts really far away from European countries, from city infrastructure and other stuff, and not in the 21st century, is all outdated. We see how quickly this war changes even within these 2 years, and lots of our skills are necessary for the safety and security of your countries too. But what makes it super pathetic is Putin's and co reaction to this statement when they say as soon as French soldiers appear on Ukrainian soil, they will be killed. Attention, please. For these 2 years, he was spreading this disinformation all over the world that NATO soldiers are already fighting in Ukraine like crazy, that we have thousands of soldiers from EU countries, NATO countries, from US, and that's the only reason why we are still standing. Come on, he and Russian propaganda in general often contradicts itself. First, they say Ukraine is full of international soldiers, and then they warn they will nuke us if any foreign soldiers appear here. BS. BS is everything that Russia brings into this world. BS and violence, unfortunately, but I'm sure together we will stop it. 50% of people watching the video are new to the channel. Subscribe. This is the easiest, but it's still very effective way to demonstrate your solidarity and spread more information about Ukrainian resilience and some really useful advice in these turbulent times. So I do like this idea. I understand that international soldiers don't have to be on the front lines. We do have International Legion, which is an example of super brave people coming from different corners of the world, from North America, South America, Africa, Asia, Georgia, Belarus, and even Russia, fighting for the liberation of Ukraine. But the number of these people, of course, is incomparable to the general side of Ukrainian armed forces, but still, this is an extremely important symbol of solidarity, of sane people who stand for freedom and democracy. And in general, international soldiers coming to Ukraine can perform a number of important functions, starting from soldier training, which is very complicated logistically here in Ukraine when they have to travel abroad. Reforms, we are extremely quickly and effectively change our army to get closer to NATO and NATO standards, which is both useful for our future joining the alliance and for the evolution of Ukrainian army, demining, I don't know, lots of things, and learning from us. Learning from us is important. It's not me being like arrogant Ukrainian, but all these drones, all these developments, all these geolocation stuff, something that was just unbelievable in times of the Second World War. And by the way, today we commemorate the end of the Second World War, one of the greatest tragedies of the 20th century. And I personally believed, knowing the history of my country, which actually suffered greatly during the times of the Second World War, and this war theater mainly took place on the territory of Ukraine and Belarus, we believed it will never be repeated again. And here we have Russians saying we can repeat. Actually, they tried to steal this victory in the Second World War, naming it Great Patriotic War and claiming that the victory is only of the Russian people, which is another huge Russian propaganda campaign. And we have a really good video about that. It's extremely important to understand that it is a joint effort, and what Russia does, it tries to underestimate the importance of each nation's fight for this common victory. And now new mobilization law becomes active on the 18th of May. More people will be mobilized. Ukraine needs them. We need to change the soldiers who are already for more than 2 years on the front lines. It is extremely exhausting and complicated for them. New law changes the age of conscription. I know many of you tell me it's very late. We had 27. Now we will have 25. It has always been like that in Ukraine, and especially during wartime and martial law. Let me know in the comments below what is the age of conscription in your country. And learning from our partners, I think maybe in future Ukraine will change that too. Also, there are more choices that people can have when they conscript to the army, taking into account their professional background and preferences. Also, many people who were considered not suitable for army because of some minor health issues will have to pass medical commission once again and maybe join the army on different conditions. Many people agree and conscript. Some people are afraid. And I know it does not look super cool, but first of all, you have to understand that the wave of the bravest and strongest people is already in the army, and it's typical for any society. And once again, looking back in the experience of the Second World War, we know how many beautiful and strong European countries did not stand against evil at the beginning, and it was the inspiration from the United Kingdom and other nations that actually helped them later raise this resilience. So it's actually very normal for people to be afraid, but at the same time it is really good that Ukrainian army is changing, is reforming to try and adjust to people's needs too. And it's all very difficult in the times of war, because once again, if you have military funerals, like every other day in your city, you do feel a little bit frightened to go to the front lines. And at the same time, the task of the army is to guarantee that we care about people different attitude than in Russia, where they take with their meat waves. And I'm proud that we invest in training, in learning, and that's where you help us out a lot, guys. So let me know, what is the age of conscription in your countries? How do you feel? In case of emergency, how many percent people from male population and female population in your country will be ready to go to active duty? Because I was surprised with the surveys in the country near me, in the EU, I will not name, that like 60-70% of the men are ready to immigrate in case they will need to be mobilized by the government. In Ukraine, I'm proud to say, like, we have a lot of men who are already fighting, the bravest ones volunteered and are already in the armed forces, but I'm sure this changed conditions of mobilization will bring more people who will help us fight and win. And we don't mind French, German, American soldiers joining and helping us end this evil and punish it seriously. I hope we will meet for a live this Saturday. Let me know if you're free and you like this idea in the comments below. Join me on Instagram, Threads, Twitter, and Discord. Remember to check our merch shop. The link is in the description of this video. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons, but most importantly, thank you for being friends of mine and friends of Ukraine. Slava Ukraini!